May session, as you know, we have these monthly meetups. And we thought for the May session, given that Connect was happening, we would have our Women Who Mule meetup right after Connect and just talk about, you know, what we heard, what we saw, and then also add some networking fun here as well. So for those who I haven't met, my name is Nisha Sharma. I'm one of the leads here on the Women Who Mule meetup. I work for Accenture, and really excited and happy to be here with all of you. So again, thank you for joining. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sudha to get us kicked off with some of the highlights.
All right. Thank you, Nisha. Is my audio clear?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Nisha. So good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce myself for the folks new here. I'm Sudha Krishnamurthy. I'm part of Mulesoft business development team, managing strategic partnerships. And I'm happy to share with you all about the Connect highlights. What are the key things we learned? And specifically in our team, we have a diverse group coming from different product, like the product, marketing, and then the sales, and of course, me from the biz dev side. So we are all here to share you what were the key highlights, what were the things that really got our attention, and what would be helpful for the audience to share with you all. So with that, if you could move to the next slide, please. So this Salesforce in general, and Mulesoft is a publicly traded company, so we have to share this. Please do not make any investment decisions based on the information shared today. Next slide, please. All right, so this is how we have organized the information today. One, we are going to, as we mentioned, we have different experts within our group. So we wanted to share the product highlights that was featured in Connect. And then we wanted to share with you all the community highlights, what happened in the different parts of the business, and then, of course, the networking session. So the slide that you see here are the highlights. Many things happened in the Connect, but we wanted to provide what were the key information, like the, you know, on a high level, what was happening in the product world, in the Mulesoft product world, and how it might benefit you. And again, as I mentioned, this is only a gist or only a part of what was shared. And again, at the last, you might see a follow-up list where you can further go and analyze and take more information. Or of course, you can reach out to us if you have any specific queries. And the product specific session highlights. And of course, I will have Aisha and Maria to share this perspective. And from the product highlights, what I found was interesting was like it was more about bringing, as a Mulesoft platform, our vision is always to create a composable network. But within the composable network, the extensibility of the platform is reaching, and we are evolving as a company, as an organization, right? So, so Sean, our senior VP of product management, when he presented the vision, he was really sharing about, hey, how do we bring developers as well as the non-developers? In a typical organization, you have the business owners, you have the IT developers and IT admins and different roles, all touching the Mulesoft to some extent. So how do we bring all these together? How do we equip with more tools so that they are all part of the Mulesoft ecosystems? So that was the key highlight that I thought really resonated with me and also with the customers. And you might see all the product releases and the highlight also have that kind of a theme going on. And the one thing that, I mean, as highlighted here, the Studio 7.9 release and also the Mule release, these are all, again, including the business owners who have not typically used the Mulesoft platform, how to bring them more. And Sean specifically highlighted there are 5 times more business users than the developers. That really gives kind of a perspective, right? So if you think about the business owners, they are more using they're more experts in their businesses, but not technically equipped in terms of writing code and scripts. But if we have to think about the digital transformation and how the organizations are evolving, specifically after post-COVID, our platform has more vision of how to bring those like the 1 billion knowledge workers into the platform. We have 20 million developers and 1 billion knowledge workers, how to port them into our ecosystems, provide them with the tools so that they are much more easier, since they are experts in the business processes, how much they can be involved in this digital transformation journey. So you might have heard about the Composer release, the data graph, and all these. We have the API blocks that's already available. So how easy for them to put together these blocks and make their processes much more efficient, much more easier for them to drive the ROIs. So again, data graph, the studio release, the Mule release, and all the connectivity updates. And that's where my team comes in. How do we provide extensive into the other, like the cloud adaptation? How do we get the AWS, Azure, and the Google, all, how does the platform become compatible to that? So the connectivity extending into the cloud and the business applications like Automation Anywhere, specifically for automation, Jira, Zendesk, and other the API services like Twilio and Stripe. So the connectivity expanding, platform expanding, bringing more business users in, and the data graph were the major releases. And Sean and our CEO also interviewed with some of the major customers who has been the marquee customers of MuleSoft, like AstraZeneca and 7-Eleven. And what really highlighted, what really got my attention is they all think it's not the technology shift, it's more the mind shift. How to make API as the strategy and think about the integration not for a tactical needs, but at the beginning when you want to think about the integration as a whole, how do you make that as a strategic? So they said that has been the key success to their digital transformation journey. So it was quite interesting to hear from the customers. So I'm going to again transfer it to Aisha and Maria to share their own perspectives and what they found as the key highlights. So over to you, Maria.
Okay, thank you, Sudha. That was a really good overview you gave us of Connect. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Maria Chinwala. I am a senior manager at Accenture, currently doing delivery lead work for a MuleSoft project at one of our financial services clients. Aisha, who you'll hear from in a minute, is part of my team. She works with me at the same project. So both of us attended the keynote, and we also, based on our interest, we attended a couple of other sessions. There are a few more that I want to get to. I just didn't get to them in time because, client work taking priority. So let me just, start with Aisha. I think I want to keep this a little conversational between me and Aisha. So just because, we want you all also to like, we don't want this to be like a repeat of what we heard. We just want to share our opinions, what things stood out to us. So we'll do it like a conversational style between me and Aisha. So Aisha, can you tell me, actually, why don't you just tell me what about the keynote stood out to you?
Yes, I think for me, the keynote, one of the main parts was like the idea of like shifting to more of like a low code, no code, which I know Sudha talked about a bit right now. And the session that I particularly went to was regarding the Mulesoft Composer. I just find it interesting that, going with that low code, no code approach, because I feel like there's a lot of benefits to it, but there are also some like implications that, in terms of, just like the trade-off between designing it and, the way that we think about it, and like reusability and stuff. And like, how do we have that type of like mindset go into like business users, and how do we train them to better understand, how like as developers we think about approaching when we're designing APIs.
Correct. That is a very fair point. So that is something that even I thought, because a lot of us are on this citizen integrator path that, we should give a business users a canvas to do because they understand the business, and we know there are a lot more. And I'm all for that. Low code, have business users, citizen integrators, work with it. But, as a technical person who's been involved in a lot of deliveries, I also get a little scared about it because I'm like, oh, I have all these like 50 business users, creating away integrations. Is that going to be a problem for me down the line that I have to fix, So, it's just something that I would love to see as this. I know this is new as it gets more adopted. I would love to see some success stories, right? Where,
of course,
because as a technical person, sometimes it gives me a little bit of, it's totally the right direction to go. We do want to enable people, but there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that may, that give me cause for concern. Like, how do you think about scalability, and people not making really like, complicated services, which could have been made much simpler. Maybe you needed 2 data sources, but you ended up taking 5, just because it was easier. So those things give me a little bit of a little bit of hesitation, but I still think it's a great thing, and we should definitely use it. So one thing, Aisha, did you figure out, I always thought, I know you went to a session on Composer. I don't know if you saw the whole session or not, because one thing that was not clear to me, this is a question for the entire group, is right now, Aisha just pinged me that she got disconnected. So Aisha just let it out.
Hey, also there's Jasmine put a question in. Jasmine, are you able to unmute yourself and just ask your question directly?
Yeah, I was able to, and I think Maria, you really, I guess, honed in on exactly my thoughts. Okay. I can imagine, I mean, in all candor, my technical understanding really is just, surface level. But with that, that's also something I get concerned about, because one of the key value propositions of a technology like MuleSoft is that reusability. It's also the governance across the board. So when we're starting to talk to enterprise IT organizations, they're trying to control the shadow IT. And I think that it's a really fine line, and we're going to have to find a balance between enabling citizen developers and integrators, but also making sure that from a governance perspective, things are kept in line. And I don't have an answer for that. And I'm curious if everyone on the phone has an opinion, but I'd be really interested to see what everyone else's take was also on that.
Perfect. Yeah. So like I said, I think this is early days for this stuff. I think even in the industry as a whole, low code, no code platforms, they're not that mature yet. So it's just interesting, we'll, I guess, wait and see, right? So governance has always been a big thing. Even in the API world, I love APIs because governance is part and parcel of it. Like, you cannot get away. You cannot just do APIs as a technical thing. If you don't do governance, you'll just be in that, big, mess. So we want to make sure that we're not, so like there's a fine line, but it'll be interesting. So yeah, definitely good governance, some oversight, make sure people aren't going crazy. It's not a wild west of business users creating a bunch of stuff that creates a hassle for maintenance down the road. So another thing about Composer, though, that I'm interested in hearing about is whether it is, I think for now, it's only a Salesforce product add-on. So also interested in knowing, does MuleSoft have plans? I was going to ask Aisha if she's not back, because I know they were going to address that in the low-code session and I didn't make it. So I wanted to see if there's any plans to make it a standalone outside of Salesforce.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, there is. And as you see, it's in the Q4 of 2021. The last quarter is the plan to release the any point version or the standalone version. Today, as you rightly mentioned, it's for the Salesforce, meaning it will be an inbuilt component within Salesforce. Okay. And they won't even see it or feel it, but it allows you to compose the Salesforce blocks. So purely designed for Salesforce, but in general, if you use any business application or anything, so how do you combine the data with already existing APIs? That's our definition of the standalone version, compatible with all applications. That's planned for the end of the fiscal year.
And so like I said, I didn't attend the session, so I was going to talk to Aisha about it, but did they cover that part also in that session, on the low code session about it?
I didn't attend the session since I'm part of some of the product conversation. I'm aware of that. Not sure, Maria, of what was covered in the session. Sorry about that.
That's one item for me to go look then, I guess.
Yeah, and if anyone else joined any of the sessions, please feel free to chime in. But I think when one of the sessions I attended, I mean, it was all about, like when we first heard about Composer, it was absolutely just, it's Composer for Salesforce, right? And all that. And even then, we were all confused initially of, well, how does it compare to any point? Like, is this competing? Is it like, what's the purpose? And then now we of course have a better understanding of exactly, some of the use cases for when you would use Composer versus when you just can't, right? Because it is for a very specific set of use cases, right? But yeah. Then in one of the sessions, they talked about how it is, MuleSoft, Composer plus Anypoint together, and being able to address some of those things like around the governance, or to address some of the other capabilities. But it was, I think that's an area we need to we'll learn more about. But it is exactly, okay, what is the role now, or for the purpose of Composer with any point versus just Composer for Salesforce, right? So I think we'll learn and see more about that, but it's definitely something new that.
Yeah, it is new and exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll give a quick example, and if we have more MuleSoft product team here, please chime in. But my example here is like within Salesforce, you have multiple workflow, and I would think Composer as in workflow. Like if I'm a business user, like think of an HR or any person trying to get some data from Salesforce or SAP. So their touch points is different systems, but they don't really how the data has been received. They don't care about that. All they want to do is, hey, I wanted to get the data from SAP. I wanted to get the data from Salesforce, and I wanted to put together a pricing sheet or anything. So that's all their workflow is. So that's where all these API blocks come in. What are the different APIs that's already available, and how do I put this in a drag and drop feature so that my workflow is created and my data is received? So previously, they have to submit a request to IT and make sure all those API connectivity in place. So there's a lot of multiple steps involved, multiple people involved. That's really dragging the process. Here, the capability that we are providing to business user is, hey, you don't have to worry. The blocks would be created. The API blocks would be created by the IT. All you have to do together, we provide you a UI interface where you can drag and drop the blocks and create a workflow and get your data. That's how I see. For Salesforce, it's all within the Salesforce world. There are many workflows that you have to create. But once the end of the fiscal year, you can if you want to synchronize the data, like if you get a pricing data from SAP and you wanted to update that in Salesforce, now you can use the two APIs and create a workflow so that every data that's been updated in SAP gets updated in Salesforce. That's a simple workflow for in general, and that's differentiated from Salesforce, if that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, and I just want to mention, like, before we move on to the next slide, one other session that I actually saw the full thing and I was very excited about, which was the future of API management in a hybrid cloud world. I recommend everybody go check that one out. It was super, super interesting. I think Kevin Balaji was the name of the person who presented. And he talked about how now it's, earlier it was like all the APIs, you just build them in MuleSoft and you manage them, govern them. But now we're getting into the place where a lot of our clients have APIs in like AWS or Azure or, something else. And so you have to be able to provide a platform to manage these APIs across multiple clouds that they have been natively built in those cloud environments. And I thought that was super interesting. But that, MuleSoft is going to be like the API management layer for APIs, which are either built in MuleSoft or not in MuleSoft. Another thing I liked about that future-looking session was governance, design time, and runtime governance. I won't get into a lot, but that part was interesting, AML, AMF. And then finally, the most super exciting one for me was like a very lightweight API gateway. Because a lot of we hear that, oh, this is big, cumbersome, enterprise grade. I just want something quick and easy that I can just install on my container and get going. So that's also coming. So that was very, very interesting for me. So that's my little pitch. That was my most favorite session that I attended. But,
thanks, Maria. Yeah. I see Lavanya has raised her hand. Lavanya, if you can come off mute, love to hear from you.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. In between, I have a quick question. So how it is different, I'm just talking about the Mulesoft Composer, how it could be different from what we have it in the design center, where you create a flows from the business analyst perspective, like you create flows connecting to multiple systems. It could be SAP or Salesforce. You do a trigger or create a separate flows as per need, right? How it would be different from the Mulesoft Composer, what we are talking right now? Is it the same? We are trying to make this feature available only on the Salesforce platform, or it would be something different? Just correct me if I'm, making sense or not.
All right, I can chime in again. Product experts, please speak. And Lavanya, nice to meet you. From my point of view, from what I have seen in terms of the proof of concept and everything, my experience with Composer is it's a different what you have already saw or creating a workflow. Meaning this would be very targeted to the business users. Somebody like a business admin who has no experience, who have never seen any point platform at all, or all they would see is interface where they know what are the different APIs available that's already been created by the IT. All they have to do is, hey, what is the workflow that I'm trying to solve and what's already existing, and much more. Again, no single code of script that they have to write. All they have to do is drag and drop approach for business user to pull together Brock to create a workflow. So it'd be very different from the previous experience. Previously, all we have been targeting is the IT who would create a workflow and then give it to business to generate a data, right? Now it's purely targeting the business users, thinking into mind they have never done coding or scripting. All they have to do is, hey, they are familiar of the UIs, they know to drag and drop, and they can create a workflow. So the audience is different, the way they have interacted with platform is different, and how they experience, how they get the data faster would be very different.
If I could just add to that, I think, the key thing to remember, I think for me, for Composer, is it's meant for very simple, lightweight interactions, right? You are never going to do SAP integrations in Composer. You're at least as of now, you're not going to do any of those complex integrations in Composer. That will always be MuleSoft, right? But this, I think the initial premise, if I believe, not being part of the product teams, but I think, as more, from a Salesforce perspective, as they were thinking of how do we do some of these basic integrations with something like a Slack or something, some other, cloud platforms as well like that, or cloud applications, I should say, that they can easily connect, right? And that Composer would come with those capabilities, right? And you just choose and you say, okay, I'd like to connect to, to Slack to be able to access this or whatever, right? But it's for those very simple, connections and integrations, right? So think of it as, as that. And likely, if we're doing any sort of really big integration program or big transformation program, I personally don't think we're going to use Composer in those environments, right? We're going to continue to use Anypoint. We're going to continue to use, the platform that we have. And I think Composer will be used for, a very different purpose. But I'd love to hear from you. I mean, anyone else have thoughts or ideas? I know Composer is a big thing, right, that came out of it. But even if, a data graph was the other big thing that was talked about too. So I know there was, a lot of excitement around data graph, but would anyone like to share their thoughts?
Aisha, did you
have come off mute?
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
anybody?
Any participants want to chime in? I mean, I think it is a pretty cool thing, especially because it definitely simplifies. And I think the example I gave during the keynote, it just made it seem like it's 1, 2, 3 easy. So especially for like some things like process API, and I know Mari, we talked about it earlier a little bit when you were talking about the experience APIs. I think that's like the perfect example of when you could use that. So yeah, I'm excited about that and trying to get my hands dirty in that too.
Anyone else?
I will also shamelessly plug our Mulesoft Composer collaboration group. This group, if you are interested in taking some of the training courses, learning a little bit more, seeing how other people have started to use it, highly recommend going there. There's a lot of follow along trails and you can get started. So if you don't know what everyone's talking about for Composer, this is a great way to get started there.
Thanks, Sabrina. Well, Sabrina, why don't we go on to the next area? I know you wanted to highlight some of the community highlights.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So also at Connect, we held a special community meetup in each region. And during these meetups, we actually announced a brand new MuleSoft community program called the Mulesoft Mentors. And this program is really to highlight some of the awesome work that's being created and the content being shared in our community. And it's also to help you if you are looking to get started learning MuleSoft or looking to start writing your own blog. You can actually connect with these mentors and learn how they got started and what they did. And Nisha is actually one of our first MuleSoft mentors, so she is a great resource if you have questions about program, how she got involved with meetups, her work championing women in tech. So highly recommend reaching out. You can apply or nominate someone for the program now through June 18th, 2021, wanted to say 2020 for some reason. And so it's open for a month, and our second cohort will be announced sometime in July, I believe. Also during the community, we had some technical talks on a variety of subjects, a lot of architecture based, some technical how-tos on sending emails using MuleSoft. And then we also had 2 of our ambassadresses lead a panel in Australia region about how they got involved in the MuleSoft community. And just quickly, here's the full list of our first MuleSoft mentors. We have a variety. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Diane before. She's spoken with the Women Who Mule group a couple times. And we have, various customers, industries, partners. So a lot of different.
Anisha.
Yes, Anisha. Some claps. And there's a link to apply and nominate. It's mulesoft.com/mentors. And each of the forms asks for a few things like if you have a Twitter, a LinkedIn, how we can connect with you. And it explains more of the incentives of the program. And now I am going to hand it off to Hottie.
Awesome. All right. So it was the conference was pretty interesting for me because I actually got to meet someone famous on Tuesday. So I had an opportunity, along with maybe a handful of other MuleSoft employees. Mostly it was people who got the most registrants to the conference. That was how they were selected. And so the customer success manager and that's my function, the customer success manager who got the most registrants didn't want to go to the concert. And so I got to go in his place. So I got to, I don't know if you could tell there, but we had a private concert with Jennifer Hudson, which was a pretty big deal. She sang 2 songs for us. So she sang 1 song for everybody, but 2 more songs for us, just for us, which was very cool. And then we got 30 seconds with her. So I was kind of curious. I'm definitely going to share my story, but I was kind of curious if we have any J HUD fans in the crowd, and if anyone wanted to share what they would have asked her with their 30 seconds. Because I'll tell you what I asked her or what I talked to her about, but I'm kind of curious if there's anyone here who would have has a strong point of view about what they would have talked to Jennifer about. Anyone? All right, well, I'll tell you what happened to me. So yeah, 30 seconds is all we had, and literally they would cut you off. So they just set a timer and then it's over. So I had talking points because I was like, I'm just gonna I don't want to miss anything, so I treated it kind of like a customer call. So that was the CSM in me. But basically when we first talked, first of all, she was glowing. So I gushed and I was like, oh my God, you're so beautiful. It was like really embarrassing. But that was the first thing I said. And then she was so nice, very, she said, oh, you're beautiful too, which was really sweet. And then I told her that I loved her in Sex and the City. Many of you might know, she was not in the series, but she was in the movie. So she played Louise from St. Louis in the movie. And y'all might remember that she had like a fiance, and she went back, and then she was like trying to convince Carrie to love and not give up on love, if that sounds familiar. Anyways, I told her that I loved her character, and it was, I talked about that. Then I don't know if everyone here knows, but Jennifer Hudson is about to be in a movie about the life of Aretha Franklin. And that movie's coming out this summer. So I decided that I was going to ask her about that. I almost asked her about Sex and the City because there's going to be a Sex and the City reboot. And I was going to ask her about that because there's rumors that she's going to be part of it. But I kind of waited out, and I felt like I wanted to have a different kind of question. So I basically asked her what was one thing that's going to surprise us, meaning moviegoers, about the life of Aretha Franklin. And it was really interesting because her answer, I think, was also telling of her. She said, I think everyone's going to be surprised that Aretha Franklin also was just a person. In addition to being a singer and an entertainer and an artist, she was just a person, and people are going to get a chance to know her as a person by way of the film. And I think obviously that's her story a little bit too, right? We all know her as oh, and Jennifer Hudson, she's so beautiful, so talented. But anyway, she was really a nice person too. And then literally poof, the call ended, and that was the end of that. So anyway, for those of you who are linked to me on LinkedIn, I'm supposed to get a picture by tomorrow that we took together, like, you know, on the, or over video, of course. So I'll be sharing that on LinkedIn tomorrow. So you'll see me and Jay Hud hanging out. So anyway, that was a really fun moment for me.
So Hedy, did everybody else get to ask 30 seconds as well?
Yes, everyone else got to ask, but I thought it was going to be like all of us together.
Yeah.
And like we would just take turns, but literally it was you by yourself. And then, you know, so it's a little bit more, yeah, nerve-wracking because you're alone. And it's like, what if you're like, you have no personality and, you know, like there's 30 minutes of silence. So it was a little scary, but I'm glad I did it. And anyway, it was really, really nice. So
that is so awesome, Hottie. And I think of like her view of that, right? Like she has 30 seconds to talk to people she's never met. She doesn't know anything about. She doesn't know what they're going to ask her, any of that, right? But it's like 30 seconds, go. And, you know,
she was super gracious. You know, and so there were, all of us that were on the call with her that got on the 30 seconds with her were in a chat together. And someone was like, I made her laugh. I made her laugh. So that was like his goal. And then like someone else was like, she wanted to like, for her to spill the tea on Mariah Carey. So like she was gonna ask her about Mariah Carey during some Christmas special. So it was like everyone had like a different angle that they were going in on. So it was really funny. So you're right. She probably didn't know like what was coming at her, but it's 30 seconds. So, you know, it's quick. Anyway, so we're ready to move on, I think. If there's no other Connect comments or recaps, I think we're ready to move on to the next part of our session today. So I'm really excited. We're going to be doing some breakouts today and getting a chance to meet one another personally, which I can't remember. Have we done this before in our meetup? Also, this is the first time. So this is really exciting. Okay, so great. So the idea here is usually during a real life conference, we would absolutely have opportunities to network and meet other people. Usually that's not always or I should say, sometimes it's awkward. Sometimes it's like organic, but you know, sometimes it's, you know, it could be a little difficult, but we're going to make it fun today. We're going to try and recreate it here today. So I have a list of questions here and I encourage you to do like a little screenshot, if you will, or just jot them down. I'm going to go through them just to kind of clarify. And then you're going to be broken up into groups. There's probably going to be 4 people in each group. So, you know, hopefully the conversation could get going. So hopefully there's at least one extroverted or quasi-extroverted person in each group who can get the conversation going. And then hopefully, you know, you kind of go from there. But really use the time to make a connection. I challenge everyone to meet someone for the first time and to like make a strong connection. So we're asking you to just, you know, to begin with, say your name, what company you work with, what your role is, and if you attended Connect, what your favorite Connect moment is. I think you all know mine. So obviously Jay Hud for me, for sure. Then we're asking you to talk a little bit about how long you've been using MuleSoft and what kind of work you've been doing. We're also want to know, like, have you been to a meetup before? Is this your first meetup? Have you attended before? And what do you enjoy most about our meetup? So just, you know, some commonalities here. And then what's something fun you like to do outside of work? So that could be anything. Like I like taking pictures and I'll talk about that with my group, but that's one thing that you could talk about. So just something kind of about yourself, a fun fact that, you know, most people wouldn't know about you. And then tell your group, not us, but tell your group, what kind of networking connection are you looking to make? Are you actually looking for someone that can study with you, or it can be maybe a mentor to you? We have some mentors in our midst, or at least we have one. So Nisha could be somebody's mentor if you're looking for one. Are you looking for a new job? Are you looking to switch, you know, companies? Are you looking for a coach? Are you looking for a sponsor maybe? Or you're just looking for a friendly face, someone to just like chit chat with and just kind of take a break with? So it'd be good for you to kind of align yourself with people that are looking for the same things as you. So that's a good thing for you to know. And then, yeah, so Nisha just said the perfect thing, and I was about to get to that. Take a screenshot of the questions. You'll have about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less, to meet and greet with your small group. Then we're actually going to come back to the main group for some wrapping up and some announcements. So please don't leave after your breakout session. Come back to the main group for just a wrap up. And a pro tip that Nisha shared, since she's the pro, but it's one that I wanted to share with everyone too, is that share your LinkedIn profile. That's the easiest way to just connect with people. So if everyone in the group does that, then everyone in the group can be connected. And then maybe you just in your mind say, oh, I kind of like Aisha and I kind of want the same thing. So I'm going to send Aisha a note later over LinkedIn and see if she wants to have coffee or just like meet up if you're doing that. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?